good. We're going. We're going.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Out of the Darkness. I am Q. That is Soder. Thank you guys for joining us. You guys could have been anywhere in the world tonight, but you're here with us. We appreciate that very much so. I mean, what else are you going to do on a Sunday night? Watch that trash? What do they call that show? I forget. I've never seen an episode.
Garage or
Garage.
truck? I don't know.
Or truck. Or no, they golly, what do they call it? Come on, guys, you guys should know that.
Gynoids on Thrones.
Gynoids on Gangs of Game of Thrones. There you go.
Yeah,
there you go. Game of Thrones. All I know, it's a bunch of midget porn. That's all I know about it. Bunch of midgets doing unspeakable things. So
how do you know that?
Congratulations. You can literally put anything on TV today and people will watch
paid
it.
Cable. Paid cable.
Okay, whatever. Paid cable. But hey, thank you very much for choosing to be with us. We're slightly more what's the word I'm looking for? Moral than that. So slightly. But we'll probably say some equally cringeworthy things tonight. But before we get started, first and foremost, thank you, Australia. Guys, we want to be as interactive as we possibly can with the show. So any questions that you guys have, we do not have super chats yet, but you can scroll down and you can send questions to us through Streamlabs. So that description will be down in the bottom. Be sure to subscribe to the show. Those of you that aren't subscribed, I will ask those of you who are not subscribed to subscribe to us afterwards as well. So, but Soder.
Yeah.
How's it going there, buddy?
Well, I feel like I'm going to be put on the Bobby tonight.
Oh, yeah. You're going to be on the Barbie for sure. We are cooking you. So,
it's only because you couldn't find any other guests to show up.
You know, I was invited to a wonderful show. I was invited to the state capitol of all places.
Well, what were they doing there?
Talking to me, apparently.
Why you?
Because
not that you aren't important, but why
because
were they talking
we
to you?
have great ideas, and you know, Minnesota is trying to get back into the mainstream or get into the mainstream. And
I thought we were, though. I mean, there was that whole article last week about how great Wilmer was, Midwest Minnesota.
Yeah, well, how great the project is going.
Mean, we're the forefront of society.
Absolutely, we are. We're very much at the forefront. But yeah, no, that wasn't what it was. They wanted me to come in and talk to them about. I guess I'm the only person in Minnesota that has never seen a full episode of Game of Thrones.
That's why they wanted to talk to you?
They wanted to talk to me about that, and apparently I'm not the only person that doesn't watch it, because it doesn't like any of our subscribers watch it either, so that's pretty cool too. So
well, they could have put it on at a different time.
You think so? I mean,
I think they could have, if they didn't want to go up against us.
Has it been outlawed in Australia? I don't think they're allowed to play that on HBO in Australia. Do they have HBO in Australia?
I couldn't tell you. Never been there. As far as I'm concerned, and no, Australia is just a fake country.
Man, be careful with that one. Be careful with that one. Whoa,
how can anyone live there without falling off the earth? I happen to love
Australia. So, when will Minnesota start offering shelter to refuge and refuge to meme refugees of Europe?
Well, Kex from Finland, right?
Oh, is he?
He's our Finnish friend.
A Finnish friend.
And
well, that's fantastic. I have a daughter that actually is from Finland. From what is that? Is it
Helsinki?
Helsinki? Yeah. So yeah, you might know her. Who knows? So
two people from Finland know each other.
I they assume that all black people know each other. They're like, oh yeah,
but to assume
I've got a black friend over in Europe. Maybe you know him.
Well, you know, but to assume that two Finn people who even live together talk to each other, much less know each other, that's quite an assumption.
I mean, how many people are in Finland? I mean, like
too many.
200,000, 300,000. Come on. Of course, they all know each other. So I'm just joking, Keck. I'm just joking. You know, we have nothing but love for you and all of my Finnish friends in the great state of Finland. So 4 hours. Oh, he's 4 hours away from Finland.
What?
So you gave me bad intel. And I know each
I don't know what
5
Keck
million
7
of us.
Go is talking about there, but he keeps talking about how he's a Finn and he lives in Finland.
Well, maybe he's a Finn, but he doesn't necessarily live in Finland. I'm a Texan, but I don't live in Texas.
What?
I'm a Texan that doesn't live in Texas.
What does it say on your driver's license? Does it say Texas?
Well, which one?
What?
On my passport, it does.
Well, did you get that when you lived in Texas?
No, I got it while I lived in Minnesota.
But it says you're from Texas?
It does.
What?
Don't you know Texas is its own country? Pretty much.
Well, I mean, all of the states are, but
No one from Texas claims anything but Texas.
okay.
You get true street cred being from Texas.
Yeah.
You tell people from you're in Minnesota, they take you as a joke. I'm being honest.
Well, I mean, I take
like,
myself as a joke.
So you got like 10,000 lakes there, hey, and giant mosquitoes. That's the only thing anyone knows of Minnesota.
Yeah,
but there are a lot of Finns here in fact, not that far from us, right over in Meeker County. There's Finnish people everywhere.
Are they the ones who escaped the purge? Or are they the good ones?
Yeah, if I ask me no questions, I tell you no lies, buddy. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm sorry. So
back in early 1900s,
okay,
when communist revolutions were happening,
yeah,
communist Finns, they lost, right?
Okay.
So then they went somewhere else, Minnesota.
Oh, so they brought that brand of communism here?
Yeah.
That explains a lot.
I know, right?
Right. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you for that. So, and I moved here of my own accord. So, go figure.
Texan who is admitting that he moved to Minnesota on his own accord?
I didn't know any better. At the time, I didn't know any. They had great health care here, so we moved here for that.
Really?
So, yeah. So don't hold me to. Yeah, it's not my
fault.
fault.
So you moved from a free state to a commie state?
I moved from a free state to a commie state, and we'll get into talking
better health care.
Better health care.
You're not
Yeah, yeah. It's not free, so
it's not
free health care. No, in Minnesota, it's the most expensive health care you can get.
But it's
good, but it's expensive.
Now I'm really confused.
I think you're short-circuiting.
Okay.
There's smoke coming out.
I might be. I rarely deal with doctors.
Yeah.
I hate going to hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
First daughter was born in one, and after that, I was like, nope, not again.
Yeah.
Never again.
Ouch. So
not to the children, but to going to a hospital.
Oh, clearly not to the children, because if you said no to the children, like, wow, you've got 12 of them.
Soon to be lucky number 13.
Lucky number 13. Speaking of 13.
Oh, no.
Wasn't there a 13th Amendment that you were talking about repealing a couple minutes ago?
I was not talking about that.
I'm pretty sure that you told me that you wanted to champion repealing the 13th Amendment.
No, I did not say that at all.
If I'm not mistaken.
Why are you putting those words in my mouth?
Was it not?
No.
Am I mistaken?
You are very mistaken, sir.
I'm pretty sure. I tell you what, and as a man of my complexion, I don't think I'm
telling you you're wrong.
Mistake the 13th Amendment repeal with anything else. So I hear 13th Amendment, my ears do perk up.
Did he say? I'm pretty sure I said 19.
Oh, you don't want to take away black people's right to vote, just women.
In reality, I'd rather have just take away my vote because I don't own any land. To continue our conversation,
you don't own any land.
Week, I don't own any land. No.
So you're taking away your own right to vote.
I would be taking away my own right to vote if I said if we made it to only landowners.
Let's get on to that in just a little bit. But the other thing I wanted to talk about real quick. So everyone keeps on telling me that I've got to get into this this Game of Thrones, right? You are a Game of Thrones watcher, correct?
Not really, no.
Stop it. Now all of a sudden, not really? Really? You and my brother were talking all about it. So
I read a lot of Reddit.
Okay, so
Wikipedia helps.
From what I'm being told at this moment, some woman decided to like go all ham on a village and kill everybody with her dragon.
That's what the Reddit says.
What Reddit says.
That's what the Reddit
You're
says.
so full of shit. So Reddit told you that a lot of. Okay, sure, we'll give you that. So with this being said, a lot of people died at the hands of this angry woman on a dragon. From what I literally have never watched a full episode.
I've never heard it described as a dragon before, but
well, what is it? Don't if I'm wrong, tell me. I mean, I saw the first.
That was a joke about that time of month, but
yeah, we're not touching that. Okay, so
sorry,
wow.
I need to work
this
on my
show
jokes.
is going south quick. Okay,
what? Do I need to bring up a common copy left version of Old Dixie or something? Or
don't
going
you?
south.
I told you I'm from Texas. Don't you dare disparage Dixie ever.
No, but it's the song of the South.
Yeah, it is the song of the South.
Confederacy. It's
absolutely
okay.
The South will rise again. Bless God. Dang right. Okay, so need stricter dragon control. I'm down. I'm totally down. Amen to that. Stricter dragon control.
Common sense.
Get control of your common sense. Dragon control is all that we are all that we are advocating here. So, and I saw a meme today, which actually was pretty good. It says we as conservatives, we are not trying to take away all of your abortions. We are just advocating for common sense abortion control.
Ooh. Oh man. I mean, I agree with the joke. The joke is funny.
We'll leave that. Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting meme. So, but we're going way off a track here, though. But no, we're talking about Game of Thrones. You're telling me why? Because you do watch the show. I mean, honestly, right?
I dabble.
Okay, you dabble. Okay, which is far more than what I've actually seen. I saw the first midget porn scene and I was out, and I haven't watched it since. But everyone says that all that kind of went to the wayside. So far less.
Seems a lot of HBO shows do stuff like that.
Whatever. I mean, but they say that the actual storyline has been intriguing and pretty fun to.
It's gone all over the place lately.
As
back and forth. The last, they move around a lot.
Okay.
Like from place to place, and when you're told that it takes months to get anywhere, you're like, how did these people move from way up here to way down here in what feels like a day?
Well,
or how are they getting all this information?
Well, I mean, when you can take your dragon from sea to shining sea, I mean,
yeah, but that's just one person.
Well, so there's only one dragon.
Now there's only one.
Well,
there was only one rider for the longest time.
So how many dragons were there in the show?
3.
Oh, really? So at the beginning of this, there were 3 dragons.
Now 2 of them are dead.
I don't understand how he who holds the dragon should hold all the cards, right? I mean, shouldn't you be able to control the world if you control the dragon?
Well, there was only one dragon rider for the longest time.
So one dragon rider and 3 dragons.
Yeah. And, well, they didn't do a whole lot, it seemed, in terms of strategy.
Okay.
They were all over the map. You know, like it seemed the kingdom changed hands every week. Very, very much like a serial television show.
Okay.
Like there's always the bad guy of the week in NCIS.
Right. And so
that's what it kind of felt like.
You're doing a terrible job of selling me on.
I'm sorry. I
you
didn't
really
know I was
are.
trying to sell it.
I was just trying. I really was. I'm thinking last episode tonight. Why should I start watching it? I mean, obviously, well, clearly not. Clearly, I'm not now. You've made it sound awful.
Well, I try.
Well, good job. Okay, so, but speaking of crazy women killing large amounts of people, you brought up this idea of repealing not the 13th Amendment.
Oh, thank goodness
So,
he finally admits it.
Yes, not the 13th Amendment.
Oh, I'm safe.
It seems like everyone left us
For a
as soon
while.
as soon as I said something about repealing the 13th Amendment. Everyone left. They said absolutely not. We're not going to subscribe to this channel anymore. In all fairness, it was the 19th Amendment. So sell me on that. You seem to be much more passionate about the
Well, I love my
repealing
memes. I love my memes.
Okay, so what
What's so
what's so appealing about repealing the 19th Amendment?
mostly it ticks my wife off.
Okay. And so what are the pros to this?
Absolutely none, but it's funny for some reason. Well, it's a meme to me. There were some back when it was proposed to give women suffrage.
Okay, so just so we're all on the same page, the 19th Amendment is just make sure I'm the 19th Amendment was the amendment that gave women the right to vote, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
So and for some reason in your mind you think it's funny to talk to your wife about taking away her right to vote.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just making sure that the Soder household, yeah.
Well, she hasn't left me yet, so.
And you know what? I might help her pack after this. So
I don't make threats, Q. I'm a man of action.
You're a man of action. Okay, so
all right, so
we digress.
So to me, it's a meme. It's funny in the clown world sense that when it was first proposed and it was being voted on, there were actually women who were against the 19th Amendment.
Okay.
Because they thought with the 19th they would be subject to the draft. They would be drafted for fire brigades, hue and cry, which is, if you hear someone in trouble, you have to respond to it. Some states have those kind of laws or had those kind of laws. Basically, they were going to have a lot of responsibilities that only the men had. And that was the price that they paid to be able to vote for those things: the draft, hue and cry, fire brigades, sheriff posses, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So their line of thinking was, we don't want these responsibilities. We're women. Our place is in the home. We're less strong than the men. We don't want to be put in these kinds of dangers.
Mind you, again, this was their thought, not our belief.
Yes, these were the people who are arguing against the 19th.
All right.
And
I just want to make sure we're very clear on
arguing against it.
That neither one of us hold this view necessarily.
So
I don't hold this view necessarily. Okay. You speak for yourself, but okay. So go ahead. It was their place in the home.
Well, yeah,
and they were not as strong as the men. They didn't want the
risks that were associated with those dangerous situations.
Okay.
So they didn't want the right to vote.
Right.
Because they thought it would lead to those other things. But in the end, women just got the right to vote with none of those other responsibilities that men had to take on.
Okay.
So fast forward, was it last year or the year before, there was talk about the army or the military opening up the draft to women, and suddenly, oh my gosh, why do we want women to be part of the draft? Well, I was kind of like, well, you wanted the right to vote. If I don't sign up for the selective service, the SS, I lose the right to vote. I become a felon.
Okay.
So why can't you? Why is my sex subject to these things, but yours is not? You have all of the privileges of citizenship.
Well, I mean, you know what? I love you, buddy,
right
but
vote,
you're a terrible salesperson.
I
Why
know,
didn't you lead off with that? Because I would agree. I feel that if you are going to enjoy the privileges of this country, then you should also enjoy the
Responsibilities.
responsibilities as well, right? I mean, so yeah, I agree. I personally think that women should have the right to um women should have the right to serve in the military just like a man. Be eligible for draft. Yeah, sure, why not? I mean, it's all about equality, right?
Well, yeah. And
Okay, so okay, I'm okay with that.
so then there was elements that were like, no, women shouldn't have to sign up for the
Hmm.
draft.
Okay.
Like, okay, so should we repeal the 19th then? Like, what the anyway, that it's a meme to me in reality. It's never going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. My wife and I agree on a lot of things. In terms, another reason that women were against it, they figured it would end up splitting the vote. Like women would vote separately from their husband, right? They might have different ideas. Like even in my own house for president, my wife voted for Trump. I did not.
Yeah, we'll talk about that another time. In fact, we have talked about it, but
Yeah, that was our first live stream, wasn't it?
yeah, it was. Yeah.
So there was that aspect of, well, we're going to give more people the right to vote, but it might split households, or the man is no longer in charge of his own house.
I think we can make an argument that a lot of those things actually did come to fruition, could we not?
Which things?
A lot of those concerns actually did come to fruition in a lot of ways. I mean, the the household has been split vote wise, right? In a
Yeah,
lot of ways,
in some
especially
ways.
this last election. I mean, I with my line of work, with my business, I work with the public. I work with a lot of families. Um, and we get into talking about things, and I know we're not supposed to talk about politics, but I mean, politics have become such a huge part of our lives. Um, I'm very careful about talking about politics because just because I have a bead on where one spouse is politically does not mean that the other spouse is in the same camp. I mean, years ago, you could safely assume that if one spouse felt one way, the other spouse would. But Trump has been such a polarizing figure that a lot of spouses that were pro Trump were not, the other spouse was not necessarily pro Trump. I mean, in your situation, I mean, both you and your wife are fairly conservative people.
Mm-hmm.
Katrina being more conservative,
Ah,
clearly. Um, and Crystalline and Katie and Maria and Bobby. Yeah. So, but yeah, with people being as conservative as they are, um, I think that in those types of situations, you have to be really careful because just because one spouse may feel one way doesn't mean the other one the same way.
and granted, even if if women couldn't vote, could still be the case.
Sure, sure,
So
yeah, that's interesting. So, but you do not. So, if a vote came up tomorrow for the repeal of the 19th, you would not vote for that.
I don't know. Maybe, maybe not.
Really?
I'd have to see what it would actually do and think about it. Like there
So,
are other considerations besides just those things. I mean, like if, for instance, if the majority of people who were, um, if women were a significant majority, that might not be the best idea, or it might come to bite me in the end, and they wouldn't vote.
how so?
Well, okay, think of it this way: if the majority of, as an exercise, if the majority of women voters were conservative, and we just wiped away all their votes, like
Okay.
if taking away the right to vote for women, if the majority of them voted for conservative, and it would, oh, and but for the men they leaned more liberal,
Okay.
that might hurt me in the long run.
But
Maybe,
okay,
or at least the short term, long run.
that's interesting because I would think historically. I mean, just for sake of argument here, historically, haven't men kind of lend haven't
I'm not saying it is that way. I'm just saying that that's a possibility,
But
a
I
reason
think
why
that
it
men
wouldn't.
have been historically influenced by their significant others for, I mean, millennia, haven't they?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so wouldn't you think that these conversations are had in the household? I mean, don't men tend to don't they tend to follow through with the wishes of their spouse in
Well,
most
I didn't
cases?
vote for Trump.
That's
So
because there was more than one vote in the household. If there was only one, don't you think your wife would have been more instrumental in kind of
and
influencing you to
we'd
vote
talk
for?
about it more. She'd try to what's the word? Lobby me for it.
Hmm. I think she probably would, and I bet she'd win.
Maybe, maybe. I don't know. Anyway,
I
I was giving an example of a reason why I might not vote for it. You
right.
know, a consideration I'd have to take.
Hmm. That'd be interesting. That'd be really interesting.
So I don't
So
know. I don't know how I'd vote, and I don't
because
like
you and I have
talking about
had the
that.
conversation. I mean, the only way that this would ever come to a actual vote would be if we were to go to an actual uh convention of the states, right?
Um, I don't know if it would even happen then.
I mean,
I
but
mean,
that would
like
be the
if
only
we're gonna be,
chance, right? I mean, it's not going to come up in Congress,
no, probably not. But
and we definitely wouldn't
is it
have the
really
votes in
gonna have?
Congress to make it happen.
Would it even have the votes
But
in
just
a
for sake
convention
of
of states?
just sake of argument here, right?
Okay.
Convention of the states, which I personally really love the idea. In the conversations that we've had, you've kind of been against the idea.
Oh
eh,
yeah, it would be like 1790s all over again. I think.
which, man, so what are your okay? So do you want to explain to the listeners the premise behind the Convention of the States and what that?
Why I don't like it, or
No, no,
what
no,
the
no. What it actually means,
uh Article 5
right?
Convention of the States is an idea that, well, not a lot of people even know what it is. It seems everyone has a different idea,
Right,
but the winning idea at the moment is that if what is it, like 34 states say we want a convention,
right,
they'll get one, and
sure,
one has to be called. And a convention of states is people can bring forth amendments that are the what's what you're told is that amendments can be brought forth to the Constitution. What they kind of leave out is that the last time we did something like that, we got a whole new Constitution. That is in the 1790 late 80s or early 90s. I forget when it was called, but uh, when we first became a nation, we were the Confederation of the United. No, Confederation. Anyway, the first government in the United States was not what we have now. It was something else. The federal level of government had absolutely no power at all. So they couldn't pay their debts. They couldn't have a military. They were basically just a couple guys in some city somewhere doing nothing. So people decided that, hey, this is not doing anything. We need to get together a convention to fix this problem. We need people to make some amendments to our document. People went to, I think it was Philadelphia, and instead of just amending the Articles of Confederation, they completely threw it away, and we have the Constitution that we have today. So my fear
well,
is,
in all fairness, no, not the entire Constitution with all the amendments that we have. I mean but it was
oh no, I was
more
meaning pre-amendment.
right. Okay,
Pre-amendment.
okay, all right. So okay, because we didn't get the 19th until long
Well, yeah,
after
obviously.
that time. Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Go ahead.
So my fear is a similar situation could arise in a convention of states, that delegates who no one knows how they're decided upon, that's sounds like it's supposed to be Congress that decides who gets to be delegates to this thing. Or maybe it's the states. Who knows? No one knows. Can decide, hey, we need a new constitution. Throw out the old one, we need to get a new one. And all of the protections we have now would go with it.
Okay, so
like we'd literally start from scratch. So what goes in it? Do we still have the equivalent of a First Amendment? Second, fifth? These things conservatives hold really dear and close now might not be in there.
But
that's my fear anyway.
But more good can come out of it than bad, right?
I don't trust people that much.
Wow. Okay. All right. So I think you can't necessarily be ruled by fear, though. I mean, if you have a chance of some really good things coming out of it,
like what?
Well,
what good could come out of an article or of a what good could come out of a convention of the states?
Well, one of the conversations that we had earlier this week was some of the listeners were concerned as to whether we could a free market system was actually possible if we ever could. And to be honest, I think the only way that we ever could have a truly free market system is to have a convention of the states.
Well, what would the convention do that would facilitate that?
Oh boy. Well, now we're getting into a wish list, right?
Well, I mean, what's your idea? What could?
Now we will be limiting the federal government's reach into our everyday lives. I mean, repeal our current day tax system, right?
Well, we could do that by just getting rid of the IRS and getting rid of the federal tax law.
But now you sound like an ideal. I think we have a better chance of getting.
Well, what amendment is it that does the income tax? Doesn't matter. Whatever amendment does the income tax, it just authorizes for the possibility of it. It doesn't mandate that it exist. Yeah. So Congress tomorrow could decide, nope, we don't need to do income tax. Blammo, it's gone.
They could.
And then the next Congress could decide the opposite thing. But
I think you and I both know that's not going to happen. So
no.
So getting 2/3 of the states together, because it right 2/3, right? 2/3 of the states.
I think it's 2/3.
Okay, 2/3 of the states together to decide. I mean, to be honest, we're seeing some really, really interesting things happen on a state level right now. I mean, you've got Georgia, which Trump came out against Georgia today.
Really?
You see that?
Did he pull a Pat Robertson?
He did not. He did not. But he came out against the abortion bill that was the clickbait title of the article. Essentially, what he said was that he felt that abortion should still be legal in the event of incest, rape, mother's health. Okay, so, but of course, it was the article read. Trump comes out and condemns Georgia abortion.
Maybe Chat can help us out a bit here. Hey, Chat. I was under the impression that the Alabama and Georgia laws allowed for in cases of rape and incest, and possibly health of the mother. Is that the case?
I thought that it did as well, but of course, maybe
now apparently Trump doesn't think it is, and we know he never lies. So
never, ever. So, and yeah, let's stay away from that one today. Let's stay away from that one today. So I'm really kind of disappointed though that Tim Miller's not able to.
Well, you know why though?
Is he preparing for a showdown in the Capitol?
Yeah, they can't seem to pass a bill or bills to fund the government for the next 2 years. And everyone
shut it down.
every it was on my Facebook. It seemed there were post after post after post. The Minnesota House or Senate caucus was talking about how hey, we just passed a bill that would fund the government for the next 2 years in case we can't fund the government for the next 2 years. I I do not understand what the reasoning behind this is, because their their argument is that this bill would fund it at the levels that it did the last 2 years.
Okay.
So no changes to any budgets.
Okay.
Why are you doing this? Number one, it tells the Democrats that, well, if they raise a big enough stink, that you're willing to just pass whatever the last year's was, which granted there aren't any increases and people's salaries don't go up, but hey, whatever little, maybe whatever little bit you can get to stem the growth of government.
Okay. So,
but it also says you're not willing to take that risk of the government shutting down, which is your ultimate card in the whole thing, which it has been in the past.
sure.
Why are you getting rid of that card? That doesn't make any sense. Are you that afraid of the shutdown? Well, apparently they are.
Well,
right?
To be honest, I feel like, because we had a shutdown here,
4 years ago?
But maybe it was.
I think it was more. It was more than two, because the last cycle they put one through. They put a budget through,
Yeah.
and he line item vetoed the legislative
I want to say
budget.
it was under Palenti. I want to say it was like 6 years ago, personally.
That would have been under
Dayton.
That would have been under Dayton, I believe.
Okay. Well, I was under the impression that there was, which was kind of cool because, to be honest, I drove a little faster than what I typically should on state roads. I knew that at that time that there was a huge decrease in numbers of state troops. I could get places faster. So, I mean, you have to look for the positive in these things, right? But yeah, so he kind of started a little bit of an argument with us via text.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah. So he was, I guess he thought that we were gonna cave on this whole idea, and it's looking like the common consensus for King Boom and Mr. Scott and Cave is that the health of the mother is taken into consideration, but that is about it. King Boom says it does, which I'm not quite sure exactly what all it does, but it looks as though I was under the impression that it did take into consideration the health of the mother and rape and incest. But I could be wrong. I'm not a connoisseur of Alabama or Georgia law, but I do find it interesting that these states are actually laying down the gauntlet and pushing as hard as what they're pushing.
You know what the really ironic thing about that is? The Targaryen kings in Game of Thrones, all incest.
And
They're literally saying that the main character, what's her name, Dany, shouldn't exist. She should have been aborted.
I can't really speak with any authority on that at all. I mean, maybe she shouldn't exist. I don't know. Is she a good person or is she a bad person? She's not the one that like burned the whole.
That is the one.
That is the one.
That is the one.
Well, maybe she shouldn't exist. Like, that's terrible.
It is, but it's funny because product of incest.
Well, I'm gonna leave that alone for now. But as we were discussing, Tim Miller. So Tim Miller,
we're calling you out, buddy.
We're calling you out. Hopefully you are watching. Okay. Hopefully you are watching. So Tim Miller sends us a text, slamming, kind of quasi slamming libertarianism, stating that that libertarians are pushing for anarchy, which I'm not pushing for anarchy. I mean, just kind of. not like full out anarchy, just Just a little bit.
Just a little bit of
Just
anarchy.
a tiny bit of anarchy. Which, how much anarchy is too much anarchy?
When you can't leave your home.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. When you can't go to Walmart at 2:00 in the morning,
Well, you
right?
can't because there's no roads. Because they're all privately owned, and trespassing is a shoot on sight.
Ooh. Eh,
That's
hmm.
anarchy. That's an anarchy I don't want.
That's an okay. Wait a minute then. So, this is interesting. This is a really interesting point then. So, how much government is enough government in your mind?
Well, so what I'm hinting at is that anarchy is you can't trust other people. You can trust them,
No,
but
no,
there's
no, no,
there's
no. I
nothing.
asked a specific question. How much government is enough government in your mind?
Oof. I don't know the answer to that. I would say probably something very similar to what we started with very few laws and very few regulations.
But with 350 million people, I mean, obviously there's a need for more laws and regulation.
Is there though? I don't know. Like,
We had a
what's
good,
different
we
now?
had a pretty large portion of our people chewing on Tide Pods and wearing pink vagina hats. Like, I mean, when you're wearing vagina hats in the middle of the streets, I have to say there's a certain digression of the mental state of the population. So, do we need some laws? Maybe, possibly, just a little bit. I think there's a need.
But I'm not sure what laws we have now that would be on over there. Should I be concerned?
Do you have some?
Should we pop up the other mic?
Oh, Miss J, what you thought? I'm curious. Oh, you're clearing. Oh, what an interesting time to clear your throat, Miss J. Okay, so
should we get a mic and camera for that?
Yeah. Would you like to clear your throat on camera?
Or we don't even need a camera. We could just light up the mic for you.
Yeah, we could do that. There's an extra mic. So no, let me ask you, what how much government is too much government for you?
Apparently that was
Your
quite
opinion.
a throat clearing.
Right? I mean, that throat clearing was official. So okay, well, anyway. All right, so
right.
She didn't bail you out. So
why would she bail me out?
Because I'm still looking at you for the answer. How much government is enough government, and how much government is too much government?
I would say similar sized government to what we had at the beginning.
Which was what?
Something less.
That wasn't there.
It was much less than we used to have. At least at the federal level, there were almost no laws, which was great. States had a lot of power and leeway over their own citizens, so citizen had more control over their government. But your argument, I don't know if it was an argument about people standing in the middle of the streets protesting. And I don't think they had laws about that back in the day, and I don't know why we would want laws necessarily about it today.
I'm not asking for laws about that. I'm talking more about the reason behind the protest is more concerning to me. Right to protest, and I feel that one of the issues that we have in our culture that we only are willing to stand up for free speech as long as people are exercising their free speech in a way that we find acceptable, right? As long as you are protesting something that I agree in, then I'm all for your right to have free speech. But I'll be very honest with you. As a black man, I feel that the KKK has the right to hold a rally in a town square. They have the right to do that. I also feel that Colin Kaepernick, for example, has the right to protest. Now, do I feel that he's protesting in a way that I agree with? I might not agree with the way that he's protesting, but I agree that he has the right to protest, right? Um, Now that makes me sound nuts in today's society because the only thing people are going to take away from that is that I agree with the KKK, which is not at all what I'm saying. But I'm saying that if we are going to have a free society, then I have to be willing to stand up for your right to offend me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I feel like as a society as a whole, we've left that we've left that arena though. We've come to a place where we are only willing to um, allow for speech that does not offend, which is a very dangerous place to be. Because at some point, you and I, being very good friends, we do disagree on things from time to time, and pretty strongly disagree. Got into the idea of felons owning guns. You and I disagree wholeheartedly. How did you want to take away people's right to vote if they didn't own? You and I disagreed wholeheartedly, right?
Well, I would be one of those people who wouldn't be able to vote.
Okay, so there it is. And because you didn't vote for Trump anyway, maybe I'm for that idea. Joking. So, okay, so how much government is enough?
Without a specific example, I would say a government that has so little power that it can only come in when someone's been harmed. Specific instances, or in clearly defined instances.
Okay, so so do you believe that the government has the right to build a wall
Where?
on the border?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you believe the government has the right to maintain a military?
Yes.
Okay. Government has the right to roll and run here.
No.
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 Really? I mean, on what level? For old people?
No.
Well, for poor people.
No.
So you would do away with programs like Medicaid?
Yes.
Medicare?
Chuck them in the not the recycle bin.
Recycle bin?
In the trash bin. In the trash
Okay.
bin.
So that's interesting. So how do you do away with programs like that?
How do you do away with them?
Yeah, how do you do away with them? I mean, outside of I hope you realize that you're making an argument for the Article 5 Convention of the States, right? How do you do away with those programs without an Article 5?
I guess I don't follow. Why would an Article 5 be necessary?
That is about the only way that you're going to get those types of programs reined in. Hey, we're talking about, I mean, countries, I mean, our country every 4 years is essentially held hostage by politicians promising better spending of these types of programs and expansion of these types of programs.
Okay, but how does Article 5 prevent them? Or how would it?
That's about the only way you're going to do away with them. You really think that, no, think about it. Do you really think at this point that Congress or that politicians are going to vote against their own self-interest? Are you kidding me? Why would
who puts those people in charge? Same people who would be voting for or against the articles or the amendments, or assuming it's just amendments that come out of an Article 5, and it's to get rid of those things.
I can think of a lot
who's
more.
going to be voting for it? The people of the states. The same people who vote for those politicians to go to Washington to give them the gimmies.
I can think of a lot more regular Joes that I trust than I can think of politicians that I trust.
Sorry, dude, I don't see it. I don't see it happening.
You might not see
I can see it. I can see those amendments coming out of an Article 5, but I can't see them passing in the states.
I think that you have
because
I don't
if they
see
could pass
either,
in the states,
I don't see either one of them happening.
Congressmen could undo those things.
Eh,
All right, so these
but-
programs that the federal government has, which you and I'm pretty sure agree that they're not part of the federal government's role, but they have it anyway because reasons. They it, the people that are sent to Washington are sent there by the people who would be voting for or against those amendments those nebulous amendments
Okay.
that come out of it. If the people pass those, why haven't their congressmen pushed for it? Like if there's this upswell, if there's this support for getting rid of these programs, why isn't Congress doing anything about it? Because Congress is fairly representative of the states.
that's in theory, but you and I both know that Congress is not represented. Let's be real. They're supposed to be. They're supposed to be. But okay.
I think
All right.
I think we're gonna need to either agree to disagree here, or we're gonna
No,
need to get some autism on some stats.
no, because we can talk about Tim Miller, which I hope you're watching, Tim. I'm gonna throw you under the bus. Love you. I know you'll forgive me. I hope you will. But Tim Miller is probably one of the best representatives that we have in this area. Would you agree with that?
I like him. He he's not done some things I've wanted him to do.
Fair enough.
He hasn't. He's getting more aggressive with pro life stuff, and I like that.
Okay.
Um,
So, but you're proving a point that there are times where even with someone, I would say that he represents my wishes more often than some of our elected officials do. Would we agree on that?
yeah,
Okay. So even with someone who seems to do a very good job with the representation, um, we feel like we've been let down at times,
yeah. And
right?
you'd have the same problem with representatives to an Article 5 convention.
Eh, perhaps, 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 but because they are not there for a, they're not elected. Okay, they would be elected, obviously, but that's not their job. I think that even getting to a place where we were strictly volunteer in Congress would change a lot of the issues, and term limits would change a lot of issues. If people know that they have to come back to their jobs and to their businesses and work in the communities that they were sent from, it changes their voting habits quite a bit. When people know that they are living in this sterile environment in Washington, and they are making decisions, and they are going to have to not necessarily answer, their fear is not answering to their constituents, it's answering to the Nancy Pelosi's of the world, or to the Chuck Schumers of the world, or to the um, John Boehners of the world. Um, who are they truly fearing? Who is their true concern? Is their true concern for those people, or is it for coming back and having to answer to you or me?
Well, if they're always around those other people.
Okay, then. So, ergo, my argument for the Article 5, right? If those people have to come back and they are answering to us, the true constituents, and they are there for a very short time, I feel like they are voting the wishes of the constituents as opposed to voting the wishes of the.
Well, what would the Article 5, would it be term limits you're suggesting would be a better,
Of course, it would be.
or would it be Congress is not always in session? Because I think them coming home. Well, your argument seems to be with they need to be around the people they represent more often.
I'm
Well,
talking
if
about the specific delegates that are there. Specific delegates what I'm right. Those delegates are going to um are the ones that I'm saying that they're the ones who vote the will and the people, and you have a better chance of getting them to vote the wishes of people who are never here, essentially have taken up residence in Washington. Okay, so what I'm simply saying is our government is no longer. I don't feel it's not a representative government anymore.
Uh, yeah, I can agree with that to an extent. But we
Because
still have the problem of representation at an Article 5. Like,
so we'll agree to disagree on that one.
right.
I was
I
making a point. I
do want to quickly interject, or
Okay.
before we get too far, and I can't remember. Mr. Scott J87. If you stole my money, I am harmed. It's in the chat.
Oh.
His statement was, "I steal your money and you are not harmed. Government not involved. And by you stealing my money, you have harmed me. That is harm.
Sure.
It's not physical harm in the sense that you cut me or uh, bruised me or something like that.
But
you have taken something from me, and that is harm.
If I'm not able to buy food for my family and I starve as a result of it, then I am physically harmed. If I'm not able to afford health care because I have a lack of funds, then I am physically. I mean, it might be unintended consequences nonetheless, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, I was making a point as far as Tim Miller goes. Tim Miller being a good representative. I like Tim. But so Tim sent us a message essentially expecting that we were going to recant on our views as small L libertarians, and stating that the horrible state, the communist state of Colorado, has now allowed for magic mushrooms, and obviously there's no way that we could possibly stand behind. They haven't legalized them, but they've decriminalized them, right? So we couldn't possibly agree with the idea of decriminalizing magic shrooms, right? I mean, we can't possibly be for that, right?
That was his point, yeah.
But you couldn't possibly be for magic shrooms, could you?
I think I could.
How so?
Well, the same reason I don't care if someone smokes weed. I don't care.
But the government's got to step in. I mean,
why?
Well, I mean, people could harm themselves on. I mean,
people
psychedelics.
Could harm themselves with gasoline.
But the psychedelics, though, man, psychedelics.
Yeah.
I mean, so if people are
alcohol gives you doesn't give you it. It can contribute to terrible decisions.
But if I'm seeing, if I see you as a dragon and I now want to bite your face off because I am tripping on some psychedelics, I mean, isn't that a bad thing? Like, you don't want people going around like seeing zombies, right?
They haven't. Well, okay. Break it down. I don't care what people do. I wish the government would care less about what people do.
Isn't that their job, though?
To care what. But until you've harmed someone, I don't think they should be involved. Medical cocaine. Oh my goodness.
We'll get to that later. Okay.
Until you've harmed. Okay, so let's. I like to view it, drug use kind of under the lens of alcohol. In that, with alcohol, until you've harmed someone, you're pretty okay. Like, now, when you're behind the wheel of a vehicle, I don't want to get into that whole, well, people should be able to drive drunk thing. I don't want to get into that right now. But the idea that you can sit at home and drink alcohol and not cause harm to anyone, government shouldn't be involved. Start doing stupid things like shooting your guns into the walls or playing with matches or torches or whatever, then you're starting to cause harm. That's more when the government should be involved, right? So
when people are causing harm to the greater good of,
when I don't like that phrase, greater good.
okay, then don't agree with it.
Because now I'm lost. Now I've gone off track. I was probably off track in the first place, but
okay. So essentially, if I'm wrong, tell me. So what you're saying is that you believe that instead of being proactive, instead of making laws for something that may possibly somehow happen down the line, that we should wait until we should punish people for crimes they've committed, not crimes that they could possibly commit in the future. Is that what you're essentially saying?
Replace crimes with harm, yes.
Okay. So rather than assuming that people are going to do bad things with this and going to harm other people, that we should not punish people ahead of time for what they could possibly do in the future.
Yeah.
Okay. So, wow. That's
like, if I'm going to be consistent, that wouldn't affect. That could be argued that drunk driving laws you haven't caused harm yet, so you can't be punished for it.
And
haven't thought that one through yet, so I don't want to go down. That's why I didn't want to go down that road.
Let's leave that one alone, because that's a pretty touchy issue.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of people that have been harmed by drunk drivers. So I definitely would like to leave that one, shelf that one.
The argument I would make, not necessarily that drunk driving, how to put it. Like right now, one of the parts of the hands-free bill that recently passed in Minnesota.
Hands-free meaning you can't
have
your mobile device.
Can't hold your
driving.
phone in your hand while you drive. If I remember right, it increases the penalties if you maim or kill someone.
Okay.
That's more what I see in terms of drug use. Like, okay, you decide to take psychedelic drugs and then you decide to drive your car.
Yeah.
If you cause harm, then you're going to be more severely punished.
Okay.
Because you decided to do something, and instead of being safe about it, like have a buddy there who's not on the drugs, who can help you and make sure you're not going to do something stupid.
But see,
you've decided to do something that caused it. So
okay, now, but at this point now we're getting to the point where that sounds like a total drag.
What do you mean?
You don't ever want to be the sober buddy, the one guy that's sitting there while everybody else is on a trip, and you're the guy that's sitting there just babysitting everyone that's on the trip.
I've never been in that. What? Yeah,
that's designated driver is one thing, but when I'm sitting at my house in a group of, which I'm not advocating this, okay? I'm just stating from what I like to read. So from the books that I've read, you don't want to be the one guy in the group of like 5 guys that's like just sitting there not tripping.
I don't know. I've never been in that situation.
Well, I'm sorry. Chat, help me out. Are you ever going to volunteer to be the guy who's the designated non-tripper? Like yeah, that's not fun. Never works out either. Take that from firsthand experience. Okay, Jay Venom, thank you very much. I can't speak in personal terms, but I can say that sounds terrible. Like, Yeah, and how many times do you start off with a designated driver, but yeah, by the end of the night, you no longer have a designated driver and you're calling an Uber?
I can only think of one time.
Really?
Yeah.
You've got some pretty good friends then.
Pretty good wife.
Very cool. Okay, so
Well, we have so many kids. She's pregnant all the time. So
so Mr. Scott's saying, yeah, it's actually kind of fun because you can mess with the guys. Yeah. So yeah, and you want to take away that woman's right to vote. Nice. Okay. So
oh
but
boy.
okay, so while I for sake of argument, I disagree, right, with your with your premise of the government being more reactionary than proactive, because in some cases you have to be proactive. So, all right, but I will say that as far as I'm concerned, anything that grows naturally in the ground, okay, the government does not have the right to tell in any point a person, I feel, never have the right to tell a person what they can and cannot put. I don't feel like the government should have the right to tell anyone what they can and cannot put inside their own body.
Okay.
Now, if they want to make laws based on possession and production of certain things, then I suppose I could deal with that. You don't have the right to cook meth. You don't have the right to possess meth. You don't have the right to sell meth. Fine. But to make a law stating you have the right to ingest meth, I have a problem with that. I would have a problem with that law because I don't believe the government should ever have the right to tell people they can't something in their own.
Kind of sounds like prohibition.
Okay, yeah, possibly.
The alcohol prohibition.
That didn't go too
No, it did not.
well.
No, it did not.
It went well for the Kennedys, but that's about it. So, all right. So, anthrax. Why does everybody want to bring up anthrax every single time?
It's natural. It's a natural way to die.
It is a natural way to die. And again, I don't feel like the government has the right to tell you that you cannot, and meth does not come out of the ground. Stop it. Stop it. Alex, stop it. So, but Mr. Scott, yeah, the government does not have the right. If you want to ingest a whole pound of anthrax, you have the right to do that. And I fight for your right to do so. I don't want you to do so. That's you should not do so. The Kennedys came out of the ground. Okay, Alex. but yes, again, now possession, the government has I'm okay with the government putting together laws about possession of certain things, but not necessarily people's right to put those things within their own bodies. But I got into an interesting discussion with my brother, the legal guru today.
Oh?
Yeah. So
Is that why you couldn't answer my phone calls?
it
earlier?
was.
Oh my gosh.
We were in the middle of it, right?
Oh, no wonder we couldn't do that thing we were talking about.
Yeah. So we got into it because he's been a big proponent of universal health care, right? And he'll be on here in the next couple of weeks to kind of discuss his own personal feelings on it. But been a big proponent of universal health care and feeling that we need to expand health care to others. But you cannot be for liberty and be for free health care at the same time. Right? Because if you were going to be a proponent for free health care, you are then giving the government not only the right, but the responsibility to take a lot more control over what you ingest and your activity level. Think about it this way. Your healthcare insurance company has the right to ask you about your alcohol, right?
That I remember that being one of the questions.
Okay. They have the right to ask you about your tobacco use, correct? Okay. They even have the right to discuss your activity levels, how often you visit the gym, and go to the gym and keep track of how often you visit the gym, right?
I don't remember that question. I remember one about exercise,
Yeah.
but not about gym.
In fact, my health insurance company would give me discounts on my health insurance premium because my card, my gym membership card, was tied to my Blue Cross Blue Shield, right? So every
Okay.
time I swiped that, they would actually get a ding on their side, so they could see every time that I swiped in, yeah, right. And if I didn't get my discount. So I was incentivized to make sure I swiped that card.
Hmm.
So I would literally pay higher premiums if I did not go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
You honestly believe that the government would then not keep track of this? Your buying habits are now on display. I was in Canada hunting. What was that? 2 years ago. Why do you pay $21 for a single tin of tobacco, chewing tobacco, in Canada?
Taxes
Of course,
for healthcare reasons.
there's extra tax on the items because if they're going to pay for your health care and they're going to pay for your lip cancer result of ingesting this stuff, and
is that what's going on up there?
you're gonna pay, right? I mean, they have the right to look at. I mean, don't think about it. I mean, let's be real. If they're looking at your report and your child has a high percentage chance of being a little downsy, do they not have the right to tell you, hey, if we're going to pay for if we're going to be responsible for paying for the health care of this child, you need to abort this pregnancy. We're not going to take care of another downsy kid.
Oh, scary thought.
It sounds like a scary thought. I get it, but it's not outside the realm of possibilities. Am I right?
I would think not.
In fact, I would probably go so far as to say, if my tax dollars are going to pay for your health care, I want them to take a more invasive approach as to how much they look into your habits. Right?
I don't like that idea at all.
Oh, I know. I don't like the idea either. but
This is sounding very
1984-ish.
yeah. Although to be honest, it'd probably be more like Brazil. Not the country, the movie.
Okay, I was gonna say,
Which is, I think it's based off of a book, and I can't remember if it's a parody of 1984 or if it was just a parallel. But it's funnier in a way. It's more how bureaucracies would probably actually work in such a world.
okay.
Anyway, check it out. Brazil, I think the 1980s is when it came out.
Okay. So, but the argument that people typically make for universal health care is that we can't afford it, which, yeah, I would probably agree that it would be who pays for it and how do we pay for it. The truth of the matter is you can pay for anything if you really, really want to. It's a terrible, terrible argument, I feel. The real argument is, are you truly willing to give up that much control of your day-to-day life? We had the situation, what was that, Miss J? There was a kid, 2 years ago, that was going through cancer treatments in Europe, right? Was that England? I want to say Great Britain.
Oh, and they wanted to go to the United
They
States.
wanted
for
to bring him to the
treatment?
United States, and they raised enough money through GoFundMe or some crowdfunding source to bring him to the U.S. But the health board in Great Britain would not allow them to take him out of this country to get better care in the U.S., even though there were better oncologists and he had a better chance of survival. They were willing to decide to let him die in Great Britain than to allow him to come to the United States in order to get care. Autists, you guys can look this up, and if I'm wrong, tell me. But it's been a couple years, but I remember reading about this story. You remember reading something about that as well, do you
Yeah,
not?
I remember vaguely. I don't remember all the details other than he needed treatment. that the UK couldn't provide, and they wanted to go to the United States, but they were like, nope, 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 you're not going.
Right. So essentially, there was a health board that was given autonomy to make decisions on this child's behalf.
Sounds like a death panel.
It essentially, I mean, is what it boiled down to. I mean, if they had the means by which to pay for the treatment, and they had the ability to pay for the treatment, and they were even going to, I believe they had a medical transport company that was going to move him from Great Britain across the pond to, I want to say, my memory fails me possibly, but I want to say that it was to Maryland, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong on that, or New York. It was somewhere on the East Coast. I thought it was Maryland, but they were going to move him. And in that, the decision was made that they were not going to allow it to happen. So he had to forgo that treatment, and I feel so badly for the parents, because they were not able to make the decision based on their Charlie Gard. Charlie Gard was the child's name, and it was Great Britain, correct? Okay, in the UK. All right, so you guys can check that story out. But of course, we're always going to say that we can do it much better than they did. But I think that speaks more to our own I'm not going to say stupidity, but I will say insanity. These types of healthcare systems have failed miserably so many times in the past. But anytime you are giving the government the right to essentially govern your healthcare, right? Yeah. Would you not, as a citizen, as a tax-paying citizen, want them to, I mean, I don't think the government has the right to come in and drug test random citizens. Do you?
No.
Okay. But at the same time, do you believe that people who are getting government benefits, who are currently collecting from the government welfare, that they should be mandatorily drug tested?
Because
I do. I believe if you are receiving benefits from the American taxpayer, that you ought to be subject to drug tests.
I don't like the idea at all, no matter what.
I don't like the idea.
It's more invasive government.
I don't like the idea of the government giving to they feel is more deserving. I don't like that idea.
Where I'd go with that is just not in the first place.
Yeah, perhaps, but unfortunately, you and I both know that that's not going anywhere. So
that's
unless we get an Article 5.
Who was I talking to? There was some bloke I was talking to running for Congress. And he was talking about how we should change the Affordable Care Act to the states decide how it actually set up. Like it's no longer a federal program. Each of the states gets to decide how they want to structure it. But there would still be a universal health care for that state. And his argument was we just need to get the federal government out of it. Like, but then we still have universal health care. His argument was that it's going to be in place in each state. The mandate from the federal level was each state needs to make it. It's no longer a federal program. Like, that sounds like a compromise that you've had before you've even gone to the table. I would prefer, if you want my vote, that you argue that we get rid of it entirely, not this horrible compromise of each of the states gets to decide how they structure their own, which is kind of what they did with the ACA anyway. Your state could choose if they were going to be part of the federal program or if they were going to try to roll their own. And that's gone horribly in Minnesota. Yeah. Minnesota system's horrible.
Yeah,
It's terrible.
it's been a dumpster fire.
So anyway, the core of my point there was that a lot of conservatives go to the table and they've already negotiated. They've negotiated with a ghost of the other side. Then when they get to the table, they negotiate again, and they've gotten only 25% of what they originally wanted, if even that. So I don't like. I'm trying. Whenever I talk to someone, like just get rid of it. Let that be the position, the public position, and then we can get better results.
Once again,
But
I love you, buddy.
that's a tangent.
But you're an ideologue.
Yeah.
You and I both know. You and I
You calling me a dreamer?
You're a dreamer. Ideologue sounds so much better, though. The problem is that you and I both know that that's never going to happen. The government has become so power drunk, right? That to give up healthcare, give up just Medicare, Medicaid, to give up these programs would be literally giving up power and control over people's day-to-day lives. What would they run on? What would they run on every 4 years? What would they threaten to take away every 4 years, every 2 years? And you can't, they're never going to give up that type of power. The only way, the only chance, smidgen of a chance you have of repealing any of these things through an Article 5 convention states. It's the only chance you have. We have to have a discussion on this another time. We probably gonna have to do a pre-recorded deal because, yeah, I think
this is where I get pessimistic.
Well, yeah, I mean that's okay. That's okay. But yeah, we need to get I think we need to get Tim in here. I think having Tim come in and talking about this, especially from a healthcare standpoint, because he actually brought some things to light as far as healthcare goes that really made a lot of sense to me that I wasn't aware of.
You're talking about the kickback thing?
Yeah,
that he was explaining that one day.
Yeah, just some of the things that take place from a purely fiduciary standpoint, that I did not realize the money that was involved in healthcare and the fact that a lot of companies are incentivized to make it less streamlined and there's reasons why it's as it is. I guess
sounds like government regulations getting in the way.
Sure, absolutely. But I just think that it's very interesting that you, in one sense, are against big government, but you think that you're going to leave government itself. Expect that anything.
No, it's I don't see Article 5 being successful because Congress isn't successful. Like I don't think the population of the United States voting on the amendments is going to turn out any different than what we have now.
Sure.
Like I don't think it would pass.
There were a lot of people who didn't that declaration. In fact, I know there.
No, things were different then.
They were different. People have always had a desire for liberty. People have always wanted to be free. All men have wanted to be free. Whatever that looked like in their own mind. I mean, people want and desire to be free.
I just don't see the people these days having the willpower, the fortitude to make measured decisions. I don't see it.
And I suppose you and I will agree to disagree. I still have a lot of faith in my fellow man. I do. I still have a lot. I believe that media paints very bleak view of people. I think we all still want some of the same basics, right? I think we all want to be happy. We all want to be prosperous.
We all disagree on how those happen.
We all disagree on how those happen, but we want the same things. But I think if we actually sit down and have a discussion of the pros and cons of the decisions that we make, I mean, like I said, when I actually sat down with my brother today and we talked about, are you really willing to go down this road where the government gets to decide how often you go to the gym, gets to decide which child you can have and not have, decide which treatment is more beneficial. I mean, we've seen the way Medicare has gone in so many cases. Medicaid is gone in so many cases where there is a governing body that decides for you what treatment is more beneficial for you and which treatment is not beneficial. Added this third wheel in your healthcare process. Are you really okay with that? And his mind was blown. At that point, he's like, you know what? I never thought about that. How many people have never really thought about how much power they would be given the government over their day-to-day lives if they gave the government control of their health? A lot of people haven't.
At least one brother.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people. I really do, because he's an extremely thoughtful, intelligent individual. And if someone as thoughtful and as intelligent as he had never put two and two together in that way, I think a lot of people just trust the government far too much.
Oh, yeah.
They really do. They feel like, they have the best.
They have my best interest at heart.
I think they'll look out for me. Because no, I was gonna say something. I'm gonna leave that alone. I was gonna make a kind of guys like Tim come in every couple of years.
I wish he was here today.
Oh, he is. I know he's watching. He's somewhere watching, but we're giving him all the ammo he needs, and we're going to coax him into coming in and sitting down with us next week. But guys, I know you guys have many things to do. A lot of you guys are probably wanting to watch this finale of Real Dragons of whatever that country is, Game of Thrones, whatever they call it.
Game of Thoughts.
Game of Thoughts. Wow. Yeah, no, we're going to leave that alone. But
THOUGHT.
THOUGHTS. But guys, once again, I'm always so thankful for you guys to show up and to come and visit with us and to be part of this. I love coming in and visiting and hearing what you guys have to say. Thank you, Soder, for being here and being involved.
Glad to be here, buddy.
We want to bring you guys more content, but we got to hear from you. We got to hear more from you. And thank you. So many of you guys have been getting involved and letting us know what topics you guys want to discuss, what topics you guys want to us to engage in. Let us know. Definitely jump in with our Discord. Subscribe. We'd love to have you guys. The Discord title is, or not title, but the address is going to be on the bottom. So
wait, are we just giving access to Discord now?
No, we're not. But I mean,
oh, it's still part of
it's still part of our Patreon, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so definitely check that out. And let us know what you guys think. Definitely comment on the bottom, and make sure if you're not subscribed that you do subscribe. And like always, guys, live free, be happy, and we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you guys next week, next Sunday, same time. So tell a friend about the show, invite them, bring them on, and God bless, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.
At all.